Welcome to the Green Parking Council web training, Green Garage Certification, a value add for parking operators. This training is part of our continuing series of online educational sessions on parking sustainability. I am Trevor Mead, Green Parking Council Program Manager. If you encounter any technical problems during the presentation, please email me at trevor@greenparkingcouncil.org or send a chat message in the box on the left-hand side of your screen. Please enter any questions into the chat box as well. We have 15 minutes at the end of the training to go through the questions we received during the presentation. The session will run no longer than 1 hour. Today we'll hear from the first parking managers to successfully lead their facilities through the Green Garage certification process. Mario Aguirre of ABM Parking Services, who led the certification process for Bank of America in Los Angeles. Tim Hoppenrath of InPark, the driving force behind the certification process for Silver Spring Metro Plaza in Silver Spring, Maryland. Jamal Gilly of ProPark America, certification lead for the Charles Square Garage in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Tashana George of SP Plus, who led the certification process for West Park Corporate Center in Arlington, Virginia. And Nicole Crossland of WinPark, who spearheaded the certification process for BG Group Place in Houston, Texas. Each of these panelists will share how the program benefited their organizations, what resources they utilized during the process, and most importantly, what advice they have for others working towards Green Garage certification. To cue this up, I want to start with a brief overview of the Green Garage certification program. Launched in 2014, Green Garage certification is the world's only rating system defining and recognizing sustainable practices in parking structure management, programming, design, and technology. In addition to providing recognition to parking structures' sustainability achievements, it also acts as a roadmap for owners and operators interested in enhancing the sustainability of their facility. All parking structures, both new construction and existing, are eligible for Green Garage certification. As you can see here, Green Garage certification outlines 48 opportunities for achieving sustainability in a parking structure. Each of these opportunities or measures is weighted based on environmental impact. The measures are organized into four categories. The first, which you can see on the far left, management, includes measures that promote sustainable operations and construction. The second category, programs, highlights initiatives that increase the efficiency of the parking process and encourage the use of more sustainable mobility options. Third is technology and structure design. This category outlines the physical attributes a garage can deploy to increase energy efficiency, lower waste, and utilize renewable energy. Finally, the innovation category allows garages to be recognized for sustainable achievements that are outside of the box. On the bottom right of this slide, you can see the certification achievement levels. Of 248 potential points that a facility can earn within the program, an existing facility will earn Pioneer certification with 90 points, and new construction facilities can achieve certification at 3 different levels. 110 points will earn Bronze certification, 135 will earn Silver, and 160 will earn Gold certification. Additionally, all sites must achieve a minimum number of points in the management, programs, and technology and structure design categories. Existing facilities must earn a minimum of 15 points in each of the 3 categories, and new construction projects must earn a minimum of 20 points in each of these 3 categories. All the parking managers we'll hear from today operate existing facilities and have achieved Pioneer certification. Since the launch of Green Garage certification a little over a year ago, 7 facilities have been recognized as certified Green Garages, and 29 are currently enrolled in the program. Each of the facilities listed here represents a number of parking verticals, including commercial buildings, airports, hotels, and universities. One of our goals during program development was to create a system that any parking structure could utilize. We'll now hear from the managers who led 5 of these facilities to successful recognition as certified Green Garages. We've organized this part of the discussion into 4 questions about the certification process. We'll start with, what were the benefits of achieving certification? Mario at Bank of America Plaza will get the ball rolling.
Hello guys. Benefit. Well, 3 things. On a personal note, an enormous feeling of accomplishment. to achieve a certification that you work so hard for, but more importantly, a certification that is both meaningful and that it makes a difference. You often hear someone say one person can make a difference. I do not feel this is true in this case. The Green Parking Council, along with the other managers and myself, who led certification for the properties, are making a difference, and we are proof that sustainability efforts in parking garages are possible and can make a difference. Recognition from your peers, tenants, clients, and supervisors. It's rewarding seeing the positive reactions from tenants and clients when you inform them of the sustainable efforts and programs that you have in place in the garage. Lastly, value. Achieving certification. It does add value to the property and operation as a whole. Nowadays, many corporations are looking to be sustainable as well, and in many cases, they only enter into contracts or agreements with companies that share the same values and efforts when it comes to sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Tim, what were the benefits for InPark and Brookfield?
Thanks, Trevor. There are many benefits of achieving the certification, but a few of the ones that I found were really just learning how we can do our part to help the environment on a smaller kind of micro level, one garage at a time. It was kind of neat to kind of share a bonding experience with the engineers, the property management team, janitorial, as well as the Green Parking Council. I know Trevor was very helpful. It was kind of neat being a pioneer in this achievement because my company flew me out to Vegas, so that was kind of fun, and we did a whole award ceremony. Additionally, our company, InPark, that I work for, we can promote that, we're one of the pioneers of the Green Garage certification, and we're kind of at the forefront of this revolution in sustainability. It might also help our company win bid deals and also help with public relation efforts. The tenants of the building really appreciate our efforts in going green. We added a juice bar and an amenity bay that had a tire inflation station, a vacuum, windshield wiper unit, and recycle bins, and it got a lot of positive feedback from that. And the building owner, Brookfield Properties, they can also promote the Green Garage certification in their marketing efforts to help lease space in the building. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Jamal, you once mentioned one of the benefits of going through the certification process is that you now use metrics at the Charles Square Garage. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yes. Among the benefits we can reap out of this certification, which is in itself, I would say, a revolution in the parking world. And it's now with all the improvements we made and all the investment, the funding we put into it, we can measure the impact on all these. It can be as simple as now we went through, for example, recycling. We have to go through like a 7-day collection, measurements, and all that weighing. We determined, at least for our facility, that to the very least, we can recycle as little as 28% of all the trash from the stream that goes to landfill, obviously. So that can be further interpreted in the carbon footprint, all pollution, all that. So some experts can take that and give us what the return is as far as this little action. Other things I can mention, we can measure with lighting retrofit we did in the garage. We improved, we saved a lot of energy. Actually, we increased the lighting density. So it's brighter than before for very little cost as far as energy. And that can be measured, obviously, same thing. That can be translated in carbon emissions through our utility companies, using less energy. Imagine this at a larger scale, garages and all kind of facilities, reducing, the energy consumption when it comes to lighting. So these little things, and there are so many we can go through, and we can measure that. And most important is the return on investment can be measured more precisely now. I think pretty much that's the idea behind the metrics I was talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal.
You're welcome.
Tashana, how did the process benefit SP Plus in your facility in Arlington?
So, as Tim actually mentioned, there's of course the process is a shared process between the property manager, ownership, building engineers, and so on and so forth. However, it actually served to solidify that relationship. So as a parking operator, again, we are in partnership with those entities, and again, served to solidify the relationships internally. However, it's also added value. So, we talk about consumers and consumer demand, and consumers are demanding more. You go to the supermarket and you're no longer just going to pick up your milk and eggs. You actually are expecting, maybe a rotisserie chicken stand and a wine and cheese bar. Same thing goes for our parking operations. It's no longer just putting making available a space for someone to utilize or to park their car. There are consumer expectations of EV charging stations and bicycle parking and those amenities that are encouraged by the certification process. And so the ability to add that value to our patrons as well as adding value to the property manager and owner of the building. The certification process also kind of forced us to implement some of the planned improvements. Everyone kind of has grandiose ideas. We all look to do our capital budgets and so on for fiscal years. And we have ideas, and sometimes those get pushed to the back burner as other priorities come around or markets change. And the certification process actually pushed us to implement some of the ideas and the planned improvements that we had in the pipeline and just had been kind of sitting on. So that was another of the benefits. And then finally, forced us to look at parking and transportation completely differently. Again, historically as a parking operator, our job has been for the building owner to make the most money possible. So the way that we do that, of course, is getting the most cars in the garage and turning the spaces as often as possible. That's no longer necessarily what we're looking to do here. Parking has become, again, we've had to look at this from a different angle. We've had to become a value add as opposed to just a revenue generator. So maybe looking at getting fewer cars in the facility, having fewer cars on the road, offering, again, alternative means of transportation and the convenience of being able to utilize the parking garage for those alternative means. So, again, thinking about parking from a completely different standpoint.
Thank you, Tashana. Nicole, you shared with me that BG Group Places certification enriched the surrounding commercial business district. How did that work, and could you explain a little bit about what happened with that?
So essentially, enrichment of the central business district means that, by achieving this certification, BG Group Place has contributed to improving our downtown area. Any small change, program, new idea that can give back to a community or improve our environment gives us added value to the area. BG Group Place Garage did things such as install a rooftop garden. This helps with stormwater management. It has native vegetation as well. And when we do, this native vegetation doesn't require that much water. So when we do need the water, we actually utilize the condensate recovery system we have, which takes the condensation from the AC units in the building, stores it, and we can use it at a later time. The rooftop garden contributes to clean air. As we all know, trees absorb CO2 and give off oxygen. And so for every tree that we can have in an inner city helps drop the temperature and improve the air quality. The rooftop garden also has an amazing aesthetic appeal for the area. Walkers from the street can look up and see the trees. People in buildings can look down and see the trees. It just really has a great aesthetic appeal and pick-me-up. It's also a place where our tenants can go, blow off some steam, sit in the sun. So it's a betterment for our tenants here in the building. Another way that we enrich the area with the garage is we offer biking options for tenants, and I heavily promote them. We have a bike station located in our reserved area, and we also have a bicycle, which is a bike sharing system, and it's spotted throughout Houston. Finally, I do Parker education on green initiatives through signage, flyers, tenant memos, reminding them to recycle, reminding them to carpool. I mean, my garage is full as it is, so, carpooling isn't a big deal. Like Toshana is saying, we want to start focusing on reducing the amount of vehicles because parking, there's always going to be a need for it, so we're not going to have a problem filling our garages. I also like to point out to them that if they're driving their energy-efficient vehicle, you get a preferred space. So it's about getting my parkers on board to make conscious environmental decisions as well, just to improve our city of Houston.
Thanks, Nicole. We'll now move on to our second question. What resources helped you overcome the challenges you encountered while going through the certification process? Jamal?
Yes, definitely. Without these resources, there's no way we can, go through such a, undertaking, I would call it. Definitely, source number one and the foremost would be the Green Parking Council with Trevor Mead. I'll mention your name. You walked us through the process from A to Z, and without you, it would be even harder because a lot of these measures need deeper explanation, and even some advice. You give us direction where to look to get the information. Sometimes we just turn around. That's very important. So GPC is number one. There's no question about that. The other source, obviously, is on property management and the building engineering are the ones directly in charge of the facility. So they will have, all the information and the background, data to help us out to respond, to respond to all these measures, especially relating to the building. Other things, we reach out to, those contractors who complete a project on property, whether it's concrete restoration, lighting, retrofit, those smart sensors, CO sensors, and all those, projects that we had to go through. And so I went back and asked for more information for documents, backup, and all that. The other source, obviously, the remaining will be, online. There's so many databases out there. Doing website searches will be, I think, the last resort to complete all the missing, pieces of information, I would say. So basically, these are all the pieces that we worked with, and they were helpful. And I'll go back again to GPC, and they pushed us really hard with, all the guidance, and that's how we can make it. So I think that's all for this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal. Tim, I know you relied on links in the certification standard to assist with alternative fuel vehicle verification. How was the certification standard helpful to you?
For alternative fuel vehicles, it's a lot more complicated than you think. You think that somebody comes up and says, hey, I have an alternative fuel vehicle, and all of a sudden you're giving them a discount, you're giving them the convenient parking spaces, but according to the certification guidelines, all vehicles need to meet the SmartWay vehicle standard, which is the U.S. government standard And each state has its own kind of listing of different types of make, model, year vehicles that actually meet the SmartWay standard. So the website, the link, fueleconomy.gov, was very helpful, and it's something that we refer to if somebody comes into our office and says, you know, I heard you guys are offering a discount, which is a 20% discount for alternative fuel vehicles. We get their information, we look it up, we confirm that you know, they're qualified, and then we sign them up and give them the discounted rate. So that was very helpful in the process.
Thanks, Tim. Tashana, what resources did you utilize?
Well, just to reiterate, again, the relationships with our client and our property manager, the willingness to, their willingness to consider some of the changes. Again, offering discounts is counter to the parking mentality. So our clients' willingness to consider those changes, as well as those insights into the building systems. The engineer knows a heck of a lot more about the building. I know Nicole had mentioned the recovery systems and so on and so forth, and things that as a parking operator we don't know a heck of a lot about, and the engineers and the client and property manager were incredibly helpful. To echo Jamal's sentiment, the Green Parking Council, you especially, Trevor, were very helpful in providing clear explanations of the standard, and again, the detail that was involved in getting things implemented and programs clarified. The thing that I found internally, personally, was here internally, I had a cheerleader. Casey Jones with SP Plus is really someone that spearheaded the effort for our company. As I said, you're thinking counter to our typical parking mentality, and someone that's really there spearheading and cheering you on and saying, yep, you know what, you're almost there, you're in the home stretch, what do you need internally to help, was incredibly helpful. So again, especially going through the standard, I don't know if anyone on the line's had an opportunity to look through the standard, but it's pretty hefty, and really having someone there encouraging through the process was incredibly helpful.
Thank you, Tashana. Nicole, what resources were most helpful to you?
Yeah, I agree with Tashana, and I think everyone who's gone through this process. My building engineers were key for me in this. They had access and knew where all the necessary files and documents were that I needed for things, blueprints, drawings, invoices from past construction jobs, things that I just didn't have as a parking manager and a new parking manager at my facility. So they were great. Past lead research for my property managers here, that was able to actually point me into the right direction on who I needed to contact about certain elements within the standard. My contractors, I think Tim kind of mentioned this, you don't know what's going into actually getting projects done. My contractors help me understand the steps necessary to implement the projects. Things such as installing REV charging stations. You know, I required a lot of electricity wiring unbeknownst to me, so I learned a lot about what you need to go through to get it done from my contractors. And last but not least, of course, Green Parking Council. Trevor was great. I emailed him frantically when I realized I was at a deadline and needed to get something done, and he'd respond to me quickly with an answer to my question. So you guys are very valuable in this process.
Thanks, Nicole. We'll move on to our third question. So how did certification change the way you, your company, and your site approach parking? Mario?
Yes. Well, in my case, our property as a whole changed the way we operate and we approach parking and how we deal with operational improvements back in 2010 when the property applied and achieved LEED certification. 2010 was a turning point for all of the departments, parking included, of course, to implement sustainable efforts and practices. The purchasing of environmentally friendly supplies and implementation of new programs, changes such as adding electric vehicle charging stations. We were one of the first, actually we were the first property in downtown Los Angeles to add them in 2011. Switching to an electronic validation system from the regular paper validation. My garage currently validates 90% of our visitors via electronically. The parking garage lighting retrofit with electronically dimmable ballast that we can, dim down as needed, or changing from heavy-duty degreasers when we pressure wash the garage. This was a change I did in 2010, back before the Green Parking Council came up. All those changes, even though when we achieved LEED certification for the property in 2010, in my mind I always felt the parking garage needed some type of recognition. Going through all those changes, going through the certification and achieving the certification now validates all of the changes and efforts done in the parking garage. Now I truly feel that our property is one of the most sustainable properties out there. Having said this, achieving certification only reinforces the commitment on my part, on my employer, and on ownership's part as well to continue with our sustainable and environmentally friendly practices, but always with an open mind to continue looking for newer and or better sustainable alternatives. Thanks.
Thank you. Tim, Jamal, how did the process impact your operation?
Definitely, there's a tricklet effect on the certification on different levels, I would say. Definitely at our staff level, while we're all going through the process, garage staff actually, they get more aware of the practices in different ways, I would say. For example, they were now supporting and participating in the recycling process. So the recycling, they're all behind it and make sure everything is processed properly. Other thing, when it comes to garage egress, idling vehicles, so they all jump in and make sure we get all these cars out as fast as possible. So sometimes there are delays at the gate due to customers not aware of the procedure. So especially when you have events. So all these staff, they know that it's critical to get everybody out as fast as possible. So everybody's impacted somehow with these, after I explained all the whys and hows of this program. And another level, personally, sustainability wasn't as clearly as it is now to me in operating the garage. So now we encompass more than just what we see, trash recycling, vehicle tickets and all that. It goes as far as what I call personally soft aspects, since we don't see directly. Such thing as the HVAC when it's equipped with sensors, and smart sensors and variable frequency drives motors. So all these are energy savers and they only function when it's needed. So that's something we're now more aware than before. Placemaking is something we take for granted. Now we realize that it is important. In our facility, at least, very active placemaking activity going on year-round, I would say. So this is something now I look at it differently. Our ECs, renewable energy certificate, is something pretty new, never heard of before, but now I know exactly what it is. And this is a way to participate, purchasing renewable energy. If you cannot produce it on site, you can always purchase it out there. This is something new. So, and other things just like that. The other level, property and the ownership of company and all that, it gives them an edge now with being, let's say, sustainable and supporting sustainability in garages. I see some very few companies joined it, so this is, like we said, new revolution. And it's good to be on the forefront. So this is something company is proud of. And overall, it's just a paradigm shift in the way we look at parking and sustainability. Like it was mentioned earlier, parking was just a place to park the cars. It's no longer the way we see it now. It's a livable space. It provides a lot of amenities, and it solves, transportation problems and so forth. So the impact is it cannot be measured, in simple words, but it's there, and it's going to grow as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal.
Welcome.
Tim, Jamal mentioned how the certification process made his staff more aware of sustainability. How has the process impacted your operations team?
I would say a lot of the things that Jamal had mentioned really raised awareness at my garage as well as my other garages. It kind of has a ripple effect where, we kind of just focused on this garage. Now we're doing, probably 10 other garages in the area and going through the certification process. But as far as my staff, the admin functions, obviously all the garage things that Jamal had mentioned, we're working towards at all these garages. But with the admin, there's a lot you can do. You could recycle your ink cartridges. You can, take scrap paper or paper that you're planning on throwing out and cutting it down into scrap paper. Doing your printing double-sided. And only printing when necessary. Using recycled paper, hand towels, and making sure that your cleaning products are all Green Seal certified. So these are a few of the kind of administrative things that we've done to help green our garage, as well as now we're for our power washing, we're doing water reclamation. So our power wash vendor comes in and they block the drains and they reclaim the water and they take it off site and treat it there. This way we're not, washing down all kinds of chemicals, and they've actually changed the chemicals they've used to be Green Seal certified as well. So those are a few of the things that we're doing now and how it impacted us.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Shauna, how did certification change SP Plus's approach to parking?
Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just parking cars in a garage any longer. We are looking at ways to maximize the usage of our facility by implementing carpool and van pool options. Bike storage is something that is huge. In the West Park facility, we actually encourage the biking by making the bike rack or bike storage area actually fun. So we've actually got a wonderful mural that is on the wall, and again, encouraging folks to look at it. If you've never looked at biking to work, maybe you walk by that mural and think, boy, maybe I can bike to work on a nice sunny day. So having those bike storage options. We are also working with locally here a program called Car Free Diet. What are some of the things that we can do to get folks into our building without necessarily having to drive? And again, that's counter to our typical approach, but as a parking operator, we need to embrace these programs to be able to add value or bring value to our clients. So not necessarily just about the bottom line, but as an overall partner in the marketing efforts and the sustainability efforts of the building. managing the transportation, you'll see there I've got and I'm in Northern Virginia, and I want to say we rival LA almost with regard to our traffic. We have fewer people, but the commutes are just as bad, and so we are encouraging transportation-wise. We have high occupancy vehicle lanes that are utilized throughout most of our major roadways, and again, working with organizations locally to encourage those types of options and those types of commuting options, so to get fewer cars or to get cars off of the road. So again, it's not just parking anymore. We are actually having to think of ourselves as really a partner with our client and our building ownership.
Thanks, Tashana. Nicole, how is the approach to parking at BG Group Place now different?
So for me, it was obviously just more of an increased understanding of what makes an environmentally sound parking structure and how to approach it, how to execute it. Just going through the process itself, that's, changed my views and ideas on how I looked at it in the beginning. For my clients, meaning BG Group Place, I feel like that it was less fear of the unknown as we went through this process. Meaning, when I approached our client for different projects and ideas, there can be a hesitation to change at first. And going through this certification helped to familiarize my property managers and building owners with what's necessary to have a green garage and why some of these elements and projects and programs exist and how they do add value to the building. For Wynn Park, I feel like that just talking with my fellow Wynn Park parking managers, we all know what the future of parking should be, but when I sat down and we talked about the standard and talked about what I went through to get it done, get a better understanding of how the future of parking can and will work. For the site is increased efficiency in the garage, back to I was talking about my condensate recovery system and having LED lighting, things to that nature.
Thanks, Nicole. We'll move on to our final question today. What advice would you provide a fellow operator working through the certification process? Tim?
One of the things that I think is very important, you kind of have a plan. So you start out putting together a plan and then kind of scheduling weekly meetings with property management and any real stakeholders that need to attend and create an action plan. So basically what we did was we went through the 200-page book and went through each item and said, okay, this is a parking task, this is a property management task, this is a janitorial task, and this is an engineering task. And each, department had kind of had their little tasks, and each week we'd come back and update the group, and our leader, Marissa Thorne, the property manager with Brookfield, would kind of write up a summary of what we did and how we're compliant, and we'd really look at each item to ensure that we qualified to earn the 2 points or 3 points or however many points each task offered. So I think that's very important. A lot of communication. We're all very busy people managing our parking garages and doing our day job there. So it's important to kind of block out, I would say, maybe an hour a week, at least an hour a week, depending on how quickly you want to do it, and schedule these meetings, sit down, and really get to business and focus on getting through the 200-page book. But once everything's done, it's a rewarding feeling, like Mario was saying. Once you complete the project and you actually get certified.
Thanks, Tim. Mario, you mentioned that it's important to keep calm during the certification process. Why is that important?
Well, keeping calm. My idea behind this is, like Tim was saying, make sure you are well prepared ahead of time. Plan ahead. Make sure you read and understand the standard first. Set up realistic goals. Don't go into the certification process thinking you're going to finish this in 3 to 4 weeks. Realistically, that's not going to happen. After all, we have our day-to-day jobs to do. Sticking to your plan, you should be able to enter and progress through the certification. Give yourself a little bit of time cushion. You never know what's going to happen. You might have staff that call in sick, or you might have special events in the parking garage. You need to be able to have a little bit of breathing room to go through the certification. Having all of this will certainly assist you in keeping calm while the certification. Don't procrastinate. As soon as you register, go through the standard, read it, understand it, like I said. Make notes as you go along. And yeah, like Tim was saying, split up tasks. That will help you enormously in staying calm through the process. Thank you.
Thanks, Mario. Jamal, what advice would you have for fellow operators?
Well, just I would say echo what Mario and Tim just mentioned. It's the same process overall. So what's important really is planning. Planning will definitely start with a thorough understanding of certification measures. So there's a first review, and second thing will be try to make a quick assessment on the condition of the facility, see what it stands as far as with each of these measures. So at least like we said, low-hanging fruits. So you know which one they are, so you can pick them up right away. So it gives you a little boost of confidence, I would say. So once you get the plan together as far as the timeline, I'll say it right now, do not expect this to be done in a month or two, especially if you run that operation. So if you dedicate however how many hours a day or days per week, it will take time, but stay focused. I would use Mario's word, stay calm, focus, stay on target, and get involved all the parties, because definitely you're going to go back to property management. You're going to definitely go to engineering, which is the biggest part, and you're going to go back to janitorial, contractors, and all that. So whoever is going to work on this has to put a list. Each task has to refer to designate the party that will get you the information. So this is very important. And then measures, you gotta need some funding to get it through. It can be as little as adding some signs, or installing, or buying recycling receptacles, or as big as installing charging stations. So if it's in the budget, definitely you have to outline all these items and get a budget together. Of course, it needs to be approved. If you believe that can be approved within the time frame, that's good. Otherwise, you're gonna look other ways. So, and then second, and I'll go back to the resources. Basically, you need to use GPC, Green Parking Council. This is the first, the foremost, the go-to for this kind of task to get information, advice, explanation, and guidance. If you don't know what to do, you just ask for some advice. And I'm sure Trevor Mead is there to answer. It's been great. I would say that we get to the last minute, and then weekly follow-up or bi-weekly follow-up would be a great thing to do, so to stay on target. And then use all other resources, like I mentioned, contractors, architects, on internet, websites out there, plenty of websites you can pull data sheets, specifications, and so forth. That's pretty much really what needed to be done to get this through. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal.
You're welcome.
Shoshana, how is thinking outside of the box critical to successfully working through the Green Garage certification process?
So it is important to think about those programs. A lot of the programs that are and the measures that are in the standard are counter to, again, the parking, the age-old parking mantra. And so, of course, thinking outside of those things that are commonplace in the parking industry is incredibly helpful. We think about our budget and we look at our revenue numbers and we're looking at raising parking rates and making more money, but then we also have to think about, in terms of sustainability, maybe offering a discount to those folks that are carpooling and van pooling. So again, that's counter to our typical belief. Additionally, again, things like the bike programs and the EV charging, those are things that are expenditures, and we go, well, is there a return on our investment? And I believe it was Mario that mentioned it. It may not necessarily be a bottom line return on your investment, but there is definitely the one facility is making that difference in the overall environmental sustainability efforts in the area. So again, thinking of those things, not necessarily just the parking budget and getting folks into the facility, but also again, thinking about things that are to the greater good. So again, those are the things that thinking outside of the box, going outside of our parking comfort zone were incredibly helpful to getting those programs implemented.
Thanks, Deshauna. Nicole, what advice would you provide a fellow parking operator working through this process?
So initially, in the beginning, I realized that this process and the decisions I'm making are going to be really owner-driven. I do need to make sure that I'm making my client happy. So I agree with what everybody said about knowing the standard, really taking the time to read that 200-page book before you dive into this, before you sign up to actually do the project. It's 200 pages, but the font's pretty big. There's lots of pictures. It's not too overwhelming, but read through it. Flag those elements and items that are going to take longer and cost, and then follow up with creating that budget and have those clear numbers, because you can't work with your existing budget. You do need to expand on that when you've decided that you want to adopt this program. And the things that they may do pushback on that aren't about money, you then emphasize, like Toshana said, on the added value that's going to bring to the garage. Also, like everyone said, follow a timeline, follow a strict timeline. I'm very visual, and so there's an example of my timeline down here. I had each element, and I do blue for completed, yellow for nearing completion, red that, it was slipping. And this really helped me to stay on track and circle back with what I needed to, and put all those little comments down on the side. Like my far column has a bunch of, just little comments and snippets that I needed, because you're not going to complete each element completely at that time. You have many resources you're trying to circle back to, and you're working with other people's schedules. So there's going to be bits and pieces of an element you're waiting on, and you need to go to the next and start working on it. So good note-taking and color coding was really helpful for me.
Thanks, Nicole. Now we'll dive into the questions that we've received from the audience. We have just a few minutes, but if you have any questions that you haven't yet put in the chat box on the left-hand side of the screen, please do so. Our first question, we actually had a few around EV charging stations. So for those of you who had installed EV charging stations in your facility, could you share a little bit about that experience with us and whether or not you charge users of those EV charging stations or not?
Hi, this is Mario. In my case, we started with the installation of charging stations in 2011. It was pretty new at that time. So we had to get together with the engineering department. We had to purchase and install different transformers and panels to install the stations and the conduit and all that stuff. So it's important to have the location first of all. Like somebody was saying, it's not just about parking revenue anymore. It's about being able to provide amenities that are sustainable and stuff like that. So to date, I have 10 charging stations. We've added 2 every year, and I have money in the budget for next year to add 2 more. The charging stations are not a revenue source for the property. We actually provide 3 hours of free charging. And then after the 3 hours to promote the turnover in the parking garage, we implemented a hefty fee. But that's just to get you out of the parking spot, and then so the other tenants can have the opportunity to charge as well.
We actually have, this is Tashana, we actually have at West Park, which is the garage that was certified, we do not charge for the charging. It was, again, basically a tenant amenity. We do have, we installed the charging stations at the end of 2012 and had very little, little to no usage on them. And, of course, over the course of the last few years, we've actually seen that usage increase. The demand has increased to the point where you actually do have a time limit on the charging stations. It's posted. We actually have not yet had to tow anyone, but we did actually have to actually add charging stations. So we started off with 2. We now have 6, and again, we are budgeting to continue to expand on that. We do have, I actually have other garages where we've installed EV charging stations, and some of those are charged. So the consumer is charged for the electricity and the time in this space. So again, it's more so client-driven whether or not the EV charging stations are charged. They're not typically they're not a huge revenue generator, even at the locations where there is a charge for the charging. However, again, it's more so a tenant amenity.
Yeah, this is Tim from Silver Spring Metro Plaza with M-Park. We do it similar to Mario. That's also a Brookfield property out at Bank of America on the West Coast. So we give away 4 free hours of charging, and then I think we charge like $10 an hour after that, and that's really to incentivize people to move their vehicle. And a lot of times our staff, like if we have valet at our garage, our staff will control that process where we'll get the keys and issue a ticket. It's almost like it's a valet car where we can move one car out and bring the other car in. Or we have garages where the garages are full and we don't want just this empty space. There's no users at the garage yet. So what we'll do is we'll have, our attendant park his car in there, and if somebody comes to ask about using it, he'll move his car out and open the space up. But I think one thing that's very important to note for anybody who's interested in installing these is really the location, because it can be much more costly if you're running electric through multiple slabs down to the bottom level or up to the top level. So I think it's important to get engineering involved, find out where the closest electric room is, make sure that the voltage and the power supply is correct, because that could cost a lot on the install if they have to run a lot of conduit and wires.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep. Jamal from Pro Park, Charles Hotel Garage. In our case, we installed that EV charging unit 2010, and for the first 2 years, there wasn't much usage at all. And the last 3 years, it's been really in high demand. And the clients, to their point of view, it's more of a tenant amenity to the tenant and guests of the hotel. But now I think we reached a point they start thinking to start charging for a fee to do it, and even purchasing additional units. So things are kind of kicking up really fast in the last few years. So there's high demand, and I think it will change very soon. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamal. We still have quite a few questions here, so we're going to run a few minutes over. Tashana, I've heard JLL speak about sustainability at a handful of conferences. What was their reaction to Green Garage certification and going through the process?
Oh, they embraced it. that was something that, as a matter of fact, I almost want to say it was. I think I sent the article to my client. I think our emails crossed paths because I sent her the article the morning that it came out, and I think she sent me the article at the same time, and so we were both on the same page with regard to certifying the garage. She had already gone through the LEED certification for the building. And again, it more so JLL, but also my client was just a huge proponent of the sustainability efforts, just personally. And so these things were very important to her personally. So she was a huge cheerleader for it. And again, it's something that JLL as a company has really embraced across the properties that I know that I manage for them. And again, making sure that recycling is happening, making sure that we are again, installing energy-efficient lighting, and those were efforts that were all underway before we thought about certifying the garage green. So JLL is definitely a proponent of the certification.
Thanks, Tashana. Tim, you had mentioned the use of Green Seal products. Were these difficult to get through your vendors?
No, really. You could just Google different products and just type in Green Seal certified. So yeah, it wasn't hard at all. You just order them online, and then you can just look around to local distributors to get grease cutters and stuff like that. That's where we started, at Google.
Nicole, we had a question come in about the image in your slide here. Could you explain what that is?
Yes, that's our condensate recovery system that collects the condensation off of the AC units that run the building, and it collects that water. And that's what we use to water the rooftop garden.
Thank you. We had a question come in about bicycle incentives. Are there bicycle programs that you have in place at any of your facilities, incentives, storage locations, bicycle sharing that any of you could share with us?
This is Mario at BofA Plaza in Los Angeles. We actually created a bicycle room. This is not basically it's a storage facility for bicycles for the tenants. This is a free amenity. We do not charge a fee or a monthly access fee to have access to the room. But we went all out. We created a bicycle room that has shower facilities. We created the bicycle room that has self-timing lockers as well as water fountains. We even provide a towel service. We have lockable bicycle racks, a bicycle repair station inside the room, and we provide all the tools. Like I said, we provide the towels at no charge. So we treat this as an amenity to the building, and we have room for 40 bicycles inside the room, and we also have another 60 bicycle racks in the garage. And this is free to all the tenants. So that's something you guys should definitely consider as an amenity to your property.
Thank you, Mario. That's all the time we have for questions today. We'll make the panelists' contact information available on the Green Parking Council website so that you can reach out to them with any additional questions you might have. Before we close out the I just want to highlight a few Green Garage certification resources that are available. and I'll email a link to all of these resources out to each of you after today's presentation. The first resource is the owner's checklist. This is a one-page checklist that will help you determine if your garage is well suited for Green Garage certification. And if it's of interest, please reach out to me once you've gone through the owner's checklist. I'm happy to connect for a brief meeting to review your garage's current sustainability initiatives and go over potential next steps for Green Garage certification with you. The Green Garage Certification Program Guide is another document that I'll email out. It explains the structure of the Green Garage Certification Program. So within this document, you'll find background on Green Parking Council, information on the objectives of Green Garage certification, details on the different achievement levels, information on eligibility requirements, as well as an overview of the Green Garage certification process. The last document I'd like to highlight, which was mentioned a few times throughout the presentation, is the Green Garage Certification Standard. This is a 195-page bound book, and it provides the details on how each of the certification measures can be achieved and then documented. The standard is available for purchase on the Green Parking Council website in both hard copy and digital formats, and I'll send a link out to that as well. Thank you to our panelists for taking the time to share their experiences with the Green Garage Certification Program. It was really great hearing how the process impacted their operations and the recommendations for others that are going through the certification process. Tomorrow, this presentation and our panelists' contact information will be available on the Green Parking Council website. If you have any questions that weren't answered, I encourage you to reach out to Jamal, Mario, Nicole, Tashana, or Tim via email. In addition, please email me any suggestions you might have for future webinars at trevor@greenparkingcouncil.org. Thank you all for joining us today.